I'm going to bring Bask Iyer on stage. He's a CIO of VMware, but also the general manager of Edge IoT at Dell Technologies. Now, Bask is here in sort of many instances, and one of them is we've been doing business together between Orange Business Services and Dell for about 15 years. So we've been their network provider for about 15 years. We provide connectivity to their manufacturing site, their data centers, over 100 sites in the world. We're currently busy with deploying internet in Americas to get them ready for the SD-WAN. And we're also embarking on a number of projects with SIP for ISDN replacement. That's the business we do together today, and we've done for 15 years. But Bask is going to talk to us about the new co-innovation topics that we're looking at together. They're in the field of IoT, of course, with Dell and all the electronics around it. There's so much we can do. Bask is going to tell us about their co-innovation on these topics, our co-innovation together, and how the technologies are changing and can affect all of you. So would you please welcome to the stage the CIO of VMware, Bask Iyer.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Good morning. It looks like the previous presentation covered everything I had to talk about, so I'm just gonna tell some jokes and get off the stage. First of all, thank you, Orange. We've been great partners for a long time. In the topic of Edge and IoT, I don't think any vendor or any partner is gonna do all the solutions you want all by themselves. You know, some people want to do world domination. As a practitioner, I know that is not gonna happen. Partnership is gonna be very critical, and partnership co-innovation with people such as Dell Technologies and Orange are very, very important. So in the area of co-innovation on the edge, we have to look things that beyond just connectivity. We have to look at, people don't come and ask us for just an IoT or edge solution. In this area, they're looking for applications and business cases and value propositions. That's what people are interested. So we have to explore those kind of opportunities together. But you know, Orange has been a great partner for us. When we had customers come and talk to us, typically, so I run all of VMware's hybrid cloud. I run Dell infrastructure. So we run something called Dell on Dell. So when you want to know how do you manage 180,000 people on a hybrid environment from edge to cloud to public cloud and all the applications, that whole group is within me, my group. And so we talk to customers. Typically, they will talk about our SD-WAN, or they talk about networking or hybrid cloud. But these days, the people who are coming to our EBCs or briefing centers are not just CIOs and CISOs. They're typically COOs, CFOs, CEOs. And these are the kind of questions they're asking us. Most of it are things like emerging technologies. They have digital transformation. And it's funny that the business folks are coming and talking to us about digital transformation, a lot of times with IT, but sometimes even without IT. So it's very critical that you understand that your business is actually coming and talking to not just us, but several companies in Silicon Valley, et cetera, to learn, to figure it out. I'll try to cover some of these in the presentation, but these are the questions we are hearing. It's not just technology questions anymore. So a little bit of myself. I'm an old guy. So I used to say I had 30 years of experience, and now I'm saying 25, because if you say 30 years, you're not going to be hired anymore. So I'm taking lines off my resume as I go. My thesis was on AI, and I couldn't write about my thesis, so I took that line off my resume, and then somebody says, that's very important now, you have to put it back. So it's funny how things seem to come back. I started as an OT engineer. I mean, the term was not OT. They called me just a manufacturing engineer, so I started on shop floors. In fact, I started in Cape Canaveral. You know, a lot of you would know the kind of Challenger and other kind of programs that went into space. I was doing solar panels for them. So in real time, you have to look at the solar panels and look at where the sun is and generate electricity. A lot of fun and a lot of real time. And then from that, I went to J&J to do, they call it computer-integrated manufacturing. That was a big wave. You automated all your factory floor with vision systems and robotics. It's called SIMS, computer-integrated manufacturing. So I was one of the few people who were doing it worldwide for J&J. Then quickly what happened was all those jobs disappeared. They all just went to China or other places. They went to India. I came from India to US, and the jobs went to India. So I had to go from an OT engineer to other places in business. So I went into e-commerce with GlaxoSmithKline. These were the places where IT was not going. IT was not in OT. They were working on mainframes. They didn't understand the technology I was using. I was using PDP-11s and DEC-VAX. My vendors were Allen Bradley, GE, Honeywell, Emerson, Philips, and their vendors were IBM. And so in e-commerce, of course, marketing did not understand e-commerce. They thought it was technology. IT did not understand e-commerce because they thought it was something marketing does. And so the whole opportunity opened for people who are like OT people to do e-commerce. And then Honeywell, in 2000, they hired me to do, I was the CDO for Honeywell, Chief Digital Officer for Honeywell, in 2000. Apparently, it's a good job now, but in 2000, that was the title. I wish I kept the business card. But they started to digitize internal operations. That's what I was hired by a gentleman called Larry Bossidy to transform internal to Honeywell. And then for 14 years, I stayed in Honeywell and became a CIO for Honeywell. And a group CIO for Honeywell. So our relationship with, so I became a Dell customer, a VMware customer, an Orange customer, almost the same days that the company started. And then about 9 years ago, I wanted to always work in Silicon Valley. I worked with Silicon Valley, and I always used to think that innovation can be done anywhere. There's nothing special about Silicon Valley, but every new company seemed to be coming from there. So we have a saying, if you can't beat them, you have to join them. So I moved my entire family to Silicon Valley about 8 years ago and joined a small company called Juniper Networks. And again, a big Orange partner. They just doubled in no time. And then they stopped. And then they started going to the next transition. But it was during a high growth time in Juniper. And 4 years ago in VMware. And VMware doubled in the time that I've been there as well. And the last 2 years, Michael Dell bought EMC, as you folks know, and VMware is 80% owned by EMC. So he had called me to come and do the integration as a CIO for Dell to put EMC and Dell together. So that's successful thanks to you. We have grown because of you. And I'm back in VMware, and I've been talking about Edge and IoT. And what is interesting is, terms like OT, I'm relearning these things. I have to say, oh, I'm the OT guy. And computer integrated management, that's not what you call it anymore. You have to call it Internet of Things. Some guy in Silicon Valley made it up. They have fog computing, cloud computing. So I'm learning all these terms, but I'm a practitioner who kind of does this for a living. That's kind of what I do. But the thing again about transformation, everybody says digital transformation is happening. Well, it's been happening since 2000 and even before. But I'm a student of history. And humans have been transforming for years. For 70,000 years, we've been hunters and gatherers. And I know that I was there. And the last 10,000 is when we've had real civilization as we know it from farming. So there's a place not too far called Göbekli Tepe. They just discovered 5 years ago that that's probably where the civilization started. And people from Mesopotamia don't get angry, and people from India don't get angry. I'm just repeating what I learned in the history. But cultivation and farming didn't start till 10,000 years ago from where we started. Manufacturing is not that, it's not that old, 250 years, 300 years, largely in Europe. And IT and compute has been hardly 50 years. It's been in our career that we've had this computer revolution. And we talk about computer revolution, I believe it hasn't even started. And then when you look at things like industrial technology, that's about 200 years. It takes about 100 years for water and steam, and electricity about 70 years. I'm sure some of you could still remember if you lived in remote places in farms and so on, you didn't have electricity. My kids won't believe me, but it was true that they didn't have the electricity. And then, computers, have been there only for the last 30 years. But in computers, this is an important point. When I started my career, mainframes was the only computers in the world. And when I worked on PDP-11s or DEC or mini computers, people thought you were working with toys. The IT guys did not want to deal with me. They looked at me as shadow IT. They said, that is not secure. We don't want it in our infrastructure, but that's where things were happening in mid-range computing. The mid-range computers did not see the PCs coming. They thought PCs were toys. The PC computers did not see mobile computing coming. They thought that was toys. In fact, I thought those were toys. Why would you give a mobile? I already give you a laptop. Why do you need a mobile computer? I mean, how many different ways do you want to get email? That makes no sense. I gave you a light laptop, didn't I? You wanted it, and now you want another BlackBerry on top of it? That seems like expensive. And I remember having those discussions with people. So what is important is the change agents, people who worked on the older technology, are going to be the blockers for the next wave. So anybody who worked on mainframe is going to block mid-range. The mid-range is going to block the PCs. The PCs are going to block the mobile. And we are going to stop the next one. We're going to try to stop the next wave of technology, and it's going to be impossible. Few of us will change and drive it. A lot of us will be not change agents for this. So that's my thesis. This is a great quote from Bill Gates. You know, we always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. So a few years ago, I'm a big car guy. You know, in Honeywell, I used to be in a company that made turbochargers for cars. So big 8-cylinder car, turbocharged, otherwise you don't drive. And you have 2 turbochargers, not 1. And then my wife went and bought herself a self-driving, the Tesla, just a few years ago. And I thought it was a kind of a toy. You know, it didn't make any sound. There was no smoke coming out of it. I tell you, every day I get up in the morning, I try to steal her car if I can. Because I get into my car, it's a great car. I tried to say go to work in an Indian accent. It doesn't work. I tried the British accent. Doesn't work. I tried the German, thinking it's a German car. The German accent doesn't know what I'm talking about. Then I take my phone out and say Google Maps to drive, right? I'm sure all of you do it for the expensive car. You sit in this car and hit a button. If it says go to work, I just say go to work, or go to hotel, like that. And then if it's a Zoom video call, it does a video call from the car. My car is my office, right? And you shouldn't do this, but it can be done. And there's crazy things. You're always running 10 minutes late to your work. I mean, every morning I'm running 10 minutes late, no matter what time. If I get up at 4 a.m., I'm still 10 minutes late to my 8 o'clock meeting. So I typically carry my shoes, run down, the socks and shoes in hand, run down, hit the button, car pulls itself out from the garage, get in the car without my shoes, put it on auto drive, and then 5 minutes later, you won't see anybody driving the car. It'll be by me putting my socks on. So the point is the revolution is happening. You know, I believe that nobody would drive a non-self-driving cars. And it hasn't happened as fast. But it is happening. There are people still questioning this, but you know, everybody badmouths the Tesla, but you talk to every auto guy, they always are curious what VMware is doing with Tesla. So I tell them, you know, you think that's not a good car company, so why are you so interested in what we're working on this? It's funny how everybody who says it's a toy car and they won't make it and they won't last, they always want to know how this works. So anyway, innovation has always spurred human productivity. This has happened. You know, if you look at something like email, people claim it, you know, this is what the analysts say. I'm a practitioner, so I don't believe this chart. I'm just showing it because I was asked to show it to you. I don't think email increased my productivity at all, but they claim it did, you know. And the last one, they say, look at the growth of FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. The productivity is sky high, apparently. In my family, my productivity of family went down after Netflix and Google and Facebook. But the point here is, you know, the amount of choice and tools we have here is just exponentially growing, and there's no stop to it. And in Silicon Valley, people kind of look at those technologies and they say they are dead already. There are people who are working to beat all of them. But the important thing is, you've seen this pendulum swing from one place to the other, mainframe to mini computer to client server to data centers. Now people say they don't want any data center to private cloud. They all want to put everything on the cloud, and it will come to the edge. It's not one or the other. It has to be both. It absolutely is going to be both. And people who make mistakes, like the people who did the mistake of saying everything is a mainframe, had a big loss. I mean, a lot of them lost out. So we believe it's going to be a hybrid, and edge is going to be one of the clouds that you need to connect to as well. And what is edge computing? I'm just going to give you a simple example. From space research, you know, you guys, we know there's a Mars rover, right? You know, we talk about self-driving cars, we get all excited. There's a self-driving alien machine going in Mars and exploring, and nobody's talking about it. It's just a marvel of technology. It takes about 13 minutes for a signal to come from Mars to Earth, and Earth being the cloud. Let's say NASA is the cloud. It's about 30 minutes for the signals to go back and forth. That's just physics. If the Mars rover has to be run by a cloud, it will do nothing. If there's a dust storm in Mars, it has to call home and say, should I shut my solar cells or keep it open? What should you think I should do? And 13 minutes to ask and 13 minutes to come back. If you have Orange network, it's 12 and a half minutes, but it's still, it is still pretty slow. So a lot of decisions and data has to be done at the edge, absolutely at the edge. The difference is it is cloud control. NASA can do a lot of things with reprogramming it if you want. We see the fabulous photos of Pluto. I never thought, I mean, this is not Mars rover, but the other programs we have, fabulous things of Pluto. We can see it here and analyze it, but the edge analytics becomes critical and crucial. It has to work independently. The other things on IoT is a lot of people are mistaking things as IoT. So everybody comes and talks about, they have a Ring thermostat at home, or a Nest thermostat at home, or a Ring doorbell at home. So they are empowering, connecting all these devices at home, and they're coming to work, and they're saying, why do I have to use a badge to get into work? That looks so outdated, and it's not secure. I can give the badge to somebody else, and they can get in. When I go home, the door opens. So the consumerization of IoT is happening at work, but people are confusing sensors to IoT, right? It's a sensor connected to the internet. The difference is we're now enabling a lot of sensors, and things are talking, but I don't have time to listen to those things. I'll give you an example. First, when I was enabling my house with Internet of Things, I got all excited. I put a Nest thermostat so I can look, and from my phone, I can set the temperature. Before I go home, I can change the temperature. I can look and see what my utility rates are. Very exciting. Then I looked at Ring thermostat. I can see, every time a dog goes in front of my house, it says somebody's in your door, and you look and oh, there's a dog. Right? Very interesting. So I have, first of all, you have 15 applications like that. I have my water meter. Everything is like sensor enabled. I put all these apps in my phone. Remember the 1,000 passwords for all of them, and showing it off. Then I put it on my wife's phone to say, hey, you can do all this. She looked and says, this is BS. Just take it all off. This is nonsense. Every time there's a dog, the Ring comes and says, oh, there's something in front of you. And she looks it up. That's a dog, right? I can never do this presentation. I have all these things. I've turned it off completely. Because I can never do this presentation because it's always telling me something is going on. That is not intelligent. That is just sensors. And things are telling you they are taking over you. You haven't taken over things. Your business, you don't want, so nobody, a lot of you are IT practitioners like me, you don't want another vendor to say there's another 1,000 breaches. There's already 10,000 breaches that you're still working on. You don't want another log to say, by the way, do you know there's another 10,000 places people can attack? What's the point? You're vulnerable already. You need these things to fix it for you, not tell you there's more problems. So how can you do this? Your walls are going to be talking, your projector is going to be talking, the lights are going to be, the light is going to say I'm going to be dead in 20 minutes, the projector is going to say I'm failing, the monitors are going to be telling you all this, the wall is going to be telling, and you're going to be crazy with the data. So how do you handle this? You absolutely need AI. The simple way I think of AI is I am not worried about AI replacing my job. I want it to replace my job. I do so much boring things in a day-to-day that I want to do intelligent things. It is just I don't want to do any of the mundane things. Humans cannot handle the amount of traffic that is going to come through your IoT. So AI and IoT is going to be your combination. For example, what the Ring doorbell should tell me is, don't tell me if there's a dog or a goat or an animal in front of my door. I don't want to know. And then secondly, if my friendlies come in, my family comes in, just let him in. Don't wait for them to unlock the car. Just let him in. And don't tell me that my wife, is coming inside the house, unless you guys want to monitor your wife, which can be done if you want, but I don't want to really know. And she definitely doesn't want to know when I come and when I go. I don't want my kids to come in. But if there's a terrorist coming outside my home, I don't want to be notified. I want the police to be notified. Right? Don't tell me. I don't want to go open the door for them. So that kind of intelligence, you want your Nest to say, would you like me to save $30? That's the only thing I want my Nest to tell me. right? And I don't even want to know how it saves me $30. Please save $30 for me. That's the kind of thing that AI is going to do for us. I'm truly excited. But AI would not work without data. You need to keep as much data as you can. This is contrary to how IT has worked. Is we try to optimize data, keep as minimal as required, throw the data out, take the top-level data and put it on a cloud or a mainframe and do analysis. So we want to throw data out because data was just expensive. If you throw data out, you're losing insight. So the reason I think the Teslas are going to be great self-driving cars is they are collecting data every day about the driving patterns of people, every day, every second that you're so. And let me, especially the guys, I have to tell you, you're not good drivers. You're not a good driver, so please pay attention. Women are better drivers than men, and I know it lets you all down, but you're not good drivers because the self-driving car is watching you, and they say how distracted you are. You don't stop, and it watches you for 6 months, and it's making calls on you, right? So that's the power you're going to get from data. You need to keep all the data, because I think the car can tell you at 8 o'clock you're not a good driver. 8 a.m. you're not a good driver. 8 a.m. on Monday you're terrible. It's better to be self-driving than you driving it yourself, and so on. So you need to keep this data, and we're now throwing away a lot of the data. Now, it's going to get worse with 5G. Great news for Orange, but not good news for all of us, because you're going to get more data, and it's going to be enabled. So you need to have a lot more way of keeping those data and not throwing them away. And putting this on the cloud, why should it be on the edge? I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I think you folks get it. It's high data volume. Cloud is not free for you, so you can't backhaul every bit of traffic to the cloud. The cost will be prohibitive. Secondly, it just won't work. The latency won't work. You saw the car example before. You don't want your car to look at a child or a deer and say, let me ask the cloud if I should stop or not, right? So you need to make calls right away. And then business continuity. Unfortunately, networks do fail, apparently. Not if you're an Orange network, but other networks fail, is what I've heard. And your factories are typically in remote places, and you cannot say, I cannot work because we had a failure or an outage or something. You still have to work. This is the reality we have today. We call it OT, IT, and then there's a whole section of R&D. So as a part of my business in edge computing, my sales team, unfortunately, tries to avoid IT people because they think IT people won't understand it, they'll slow it down. Your OT is spending a lot more money on IT than IT is, because IT is stuck in back office still. We're still solving yesterday's problems. Today's problems are happening here. So there's a big divide on OT and IT. The OT guys don't know who the IT people are, and the IT folks don't even know that there's something called OT. And the R&D in any company does whatever the hell they want, right? So they don't really know anybody. They don't think salespeople exist. They don't think anybody exists. It's just whatever they want. And so whoever combines that is going to make a ton of money. So the other one is we talked about moving from data centers to centers of data. So the way we look at edge computing from our perspective is you don't have multiple data centers in cloud. You look at it as micro data centers at the edge. It looks like a very, very mini data center at the edge, and you want to be close to where the data is happening. So what happens is public cloud not going to grow? No, it's going to grow tremendously, and a lot of our growth in VMware has come through growth in public clouds. The data centers are not disappearing. We had a record year on server sales and storage sales because all of you are buying data centers. You may think you're getting out of data centers, but you're not, and you're getting into more of the edge. The business doesn't call it edge. The vendors call it edge and IoT. Like Honeywell, where I work, we never use the term IoT. They are the IoT company, but they call themselves industrial automation, or they call themselves building automation, or machine automation. We call it edge. We call it IoT. So the business are buying a lot of servers. They're buying a lot of storage. The industry is calling it edge, but they don't themselves call it as edge. It is growing. And I think the things are going to grow as well. Unfortunately for us in technology, spending in technology is going to grow up. Because the only way you get productivity is spending more money on technology. That's the only way you're going to get productivity. And we're going to be competing against every other person with tech. So the bad news, good news is we're going to spend money on a lot of them. Our vision is we want to connect any device, any application to any cloud. We already connect all your devices, your phones, your laptops, all these things are secured by solutions we provide. Same technology is extended to the edge for you. So the same IT folks can go to the OT folks and say, let me help you secure. Say all applications you want to run, you can run it on public cloud, private cloud, or edge, and move workload between the edge. So instead of looking at it as network edge, compute edge, device edge, we look at it as a complete edge solution for you. And it's all software defined. And the edge cloud for us could be a very small one. You put a box and it becomes an edge cloud. The most important thing is you don't know what is going to run on the edge and what is going to run on your data center and what is going to run on your public cloud. You want to enable those transitions, if you will. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on IoT security because we talked about this. This is how your data center looks. We have armed guards. Actually, we do have armed guards in our Vegas data center. You have people with guns. You cannot get into the data. I cannot get into the data center, and I'm the CIO. It is very well secured. This is how your edge security looks. You don't even know it exists, but these are actual photos. So I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but you are not buying the video surveillance cameras and video surveillance systems. You're not buying it. I know that because we are one of the largest video surveillance vendors, and we know we're not talking to you. We're talking to your head of security or real estate or facilities. Most of the cameras are made in a place you don't want them to be made. They are running whatever version of Linux they want. There's never been upgraded, ever. And their password, most likely, you can try it in your security system, is admin. So try it next time. So you can do all the phishing attacks and everything on the mail, but your IoT edge, because you don't think of it as a computer system. It opens all the issues you had on the edge and IoT you have on your data center is on the edge as well. And you don't want a new set of tools. You want the same set of tools that you're using to manage the edge. You can't buy more software and more software. So in closing, I want to just stop with, you want to make security intrinsic. You don't want to think about adding another security layer to folks. And you don't want to talk about security to your OT people who already don't want to talk to you. Right? So you want to go to them with something interesting. So what can you do? First is realize that the IoT wave is on here, right? It's a huge opportunity. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad I can go back to, I hope I can write code again. I'm not sure how good I am, but it was so much fun working on actual projects at the edge with the business and adding value instead of the back office that IT gets stuck with. We have good solutions now for putting some of the apps we have on the cloud, so we can actually go and work on interesting things at the business. So if you're an infrastructure person or an applications person, first is that there's a huge opportunity to get involved. Second is partnership between IT and OT are important, but it's like going to any party. If you're not invited to the party, you have to take something to the party. I take a bottle of wine, but you have to take something that you want. You take your architecture and your expertise to them and help them go faster rather than slowing them down. Build the right architecture. It's very critical that you work with your partners that you have and build the right security infrastructure. So you have the same tools and same set of things that you're using at your private cloud, multiple cloud, hybrid clouds on the edge cloud. So if you're using one of our products to manage your phones, extend it. If you're using one of our products or somebody else's product to manage your cloud infrastructure and your private cloud, public cloud, extend it to the edge. It comes with a lot of risks, so make sure the risks are intrinsic. I don't want to end in this closing, but at some stage, your audit committee is going to ask you about these breaches. And you could tell them that I'm not accountable, it's done by OT, but they're going to tell you, the last time I looked, you were the head of infrastructure, you were the CIO. Why were you not involved? So these days are coming for you. So get involved, but most importantly, go back to the first one. It's a very exciting place to be. It's good fun. So I encourage you to get out of back office and come into IoT. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bask. Bask, stay here 1 second. Bask, I have two questions for you.
Okay.
The first one is, who keeps sending that dog in front of your house? Because, you got to stop it.
I know.
There's an easier way. Just tell them to stop. But the second question is probably more interesting, is the people in the room here, we have a lot of people working in IT indeed, and these IoT projects usually start from the business. They start from the business, they get it, and then IT can only come in at some point. So what would your recommendation be to the people in the room? Say, how can I get into these projects at an earlier phase? What would you say to them?
I think first is you have to show some passion and excitement for this. Unfortunately, there's so many projects in IT, application rationalization, SD-WAN, network optimization, all these critical projects that everything falls below the line. And we put the business projects below the line. So first is prioritize that and show some interest, because without interest, you won't get invited. Second is, like I said, take a bottle of wine. Bribing still works. So you got to go to them and say, I have a relationship with Dell Technologies, a relationship with Orange. Let me come up and do the something for you. I already have a license with AirWatch or VMware. I have an Edge license. Let me help secure it for you, but do it faster. Don't slow it down. So you have to bring something to the table. That's what I do for a party. Always, good scotch always helps. So that's what I would recommend. Thank you.
Thank you, Bask. Thank you very much.